Senator Cassidy.
Mr. Secretary, congratulations on your leadership. The chair of the committee mentioned at the outset over the last year, morale has improved, diversity has improved. Not bad for a Navy SEAL commander, man. Good for you. Let me thank you for being here. Hey, thanks for visiting South Louisiana. Our coastline is vanishing. We've had a hard time getting permits to repair our delta. By the time we get the permit, the delta is gone. So thank you for your commitment to make that work, and thank you for the decision under the proposed budget to retain GOMESA payments to the Gulf states. We need that money to rebuild our coastline. For us, it's existential. And let me just get a couple things straight. They're giving you a heck for taking a private plane from the North Slope where, Madam Chair?
We were down
Anchorage.
well, we went to Fairbanks.
If you had driven that, is one possible, and how many miles is it from one to the other?
Well, from where we began, it was not possible to fly. We were up in the
Did you
alpine
drive?
fields. It was not possible to drive, so we had to fly. There is a haul road for the pipeline.
But how many miles is that?
To Fairbanks, it's 400, 350.
But there's no road. And they're giving you a heck for that. Well, Mr. Secretary, you should take that heck. Because if you got to see the North Slope and there's no road to get back to where you need to be, you got to get there somehow.
Senator, I've been shot at before. I'm very comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Do right, fear no man. Do the best you can. Everything I do is scrutinized, and I'm willing to take attacks on myself. I don't like attacks on my family, my kids, which I get raked all the time. But we're pretty tough. We're a military family. We're pretty tough about it. Do right, fear no man. Wake up and make sure we're accountable. Everything I do is looked at through a whole legal team, Office of Ethics.
Well, let me congratulate you for being so gracious regarding your predecessor, Secretary Jewell, who I guess you point out that she took trips totaling $1 million in cost. So again, that was very gracious of you. I think you recognize your presence would be very important to somebody in Las Vegas if they're going over an interior issue. One more thing. We in Louisiana have recognized that you can't be pro-environmental unless you're pro-business, and you can't be pro-business unless you're pro-environmental, because the one sustains the other. Now, I see that the Interior Department has spoken of decreasing the royalty rate for offshore oil and gas for leases sold later this year from 18.75 to 12.5. I get that. There's been a real difficulty in jump-starting development out there. Without that development, there won't be money for GOMESA, there won't be money for the Land Water Conservation Fund. So there's a national interest in that. But my questions relate to this. How does Interior's analysis project GOMESA revenues would be impacted if the recommendation is accepted?
Well, certainly the advisory board is just that, as an advisory board. And they made several recommendations, as you point out. One of the recommendations was to remove or lower the royalty rates. On the Gulf, we are due to put up for lease the largest acreage in the history of this country in the central and western Gulf. It will be interesting to see what the level of interest, we think the interest is good on that.
Now, is the interest sparked by the lowering of the royalty?
The data is, I would say you can go either way in the data. Lowering rate, the supply and demand, lowering the rate, one could say, well, it increases the production. What we're seeing, though, is more production onshore than offshore. We saw companies like Exxon, $50 billion in the Permian, Woolford, onshore. Still, offshore is more risky, and it's more expensive. The Gulf has an advantage, is that you have subsea infrastructure. So the Gulf has advantages as opposed to both the East and West Coast. I think this lease sale will be a bellwether on offshore probably in the next 10 years.
So in the one sense, you could have increased revenue if you have more production to offset the lower royalty rates. Any modeling of that, or somehow, obviously we in Louisiana are concerned because GOMESA funding to rebuild our coastlines linked to that, and those who get money for the Land Water Conservation Fund likewise concerned. So any modeling on that?
We do have modeling. We'll share with you what we have. Again, it's a supply and demand model. You'll lower the royalties, you make it more attractive. Production increases, and revenue in some cases can increase. So what you want to do is make sure your royalties are fair, appropriate. Don't penalize production. Incentivize overall energy dominance, but make sure that also that you incentivize reliable, incorporating innovation into our regulatory scheme. What I'm hearing from the industry is regulation that incorporates innovation, best science, and best practices, that's not punitive, is as much of a economic driver as royalty rates.
Got it. I yield back. Thank you.